Morning, everybody. Glad you're here today. Hope you're having a good week so far. And we're going to start today a new chapter. We're picking up chapter 5. And so, if you like, if you want to turn there, we'll look at this chapter. We're going to look at the first 5 verses today, and 6 verses. And as we look at these, I think there is a obvious message that we're going to see in these 6 verses. One of them is the obvious lesson is that the father is warning the son against committing adultery. But I believe if you read it, you also see that there is a broader lesson that in general, specifically, he's talking about immorality, and certainly that is a problem today, probably in many ways worse than it's ever been. But I think we can take the message here and apply it across the board to evil, to wickedness in general. Because basically what he's going to say is run. Get away from that situation. Get away from a situation that might lead you into adultery and immorality. But again, that same message is true for wickedness in general. And so as we look at this, I hope you'll again see the primary message that the father is giving his son, but then understand that there's that these lessons also would apply to daughters as well, but then that again the warning against wickedness and evil and immorality of any shape or form, that we would avoid it. And so he begins in verse 1 by saying, "My son." And let me say one other thing. In the book of Proverbs, typically what we see is the woman portrayed as the immoral, the one leading the son astray. But again, the lesson can be turned, and this could just as easily say "my daughter," and speak to her as well. Avoid immorality. Avoid an immoral man that could lead you into paths of corruption. And so let's not get hung up on that piece of the terminology here. But he begins this with again his typical way: "Attend unto my wisdom." Listen. Listen to what I am saying. Bow your ear to my understanding, that thou mayest regard discretion. And so he, again, I can, what I picture is with my own kids, and probably most of you can identify with this as well, as, maybe the son is kind of drifting off, and so I'm saying, hey, pay attention what I'm about to tell you. Pay attention to what I am about to say. And then he says, so that your lips may keep knowledge. He's saying to him, again, that you'll take this knowledge with you, that you'll implement this knowledge, that you'll use it, that it'll be in your mouth, to be spoken, to be used. Not just be a hearer of the wisdom, but you'll actually have it at hand. And then we see why. He says, "For the lips of a strange woman drop as a honeycomb. Her mouth is smoother than oil, but her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps take hold on hell, lest thou shouldest ponder the path of life. Her ways are movable, that thou cannot know them. And so he's warning again specifically about being seduced, about being corrupted by a wicked woman, and whether that be a prostitute or someone else's wife, or any female that he's not married to, that she is trying to seduce him, trying to flirt with him through the words that she uses, and the speech that she uses, that her lips drip like honey. And so he's saying to don't be fooled by her wickedness. And again, he's obviously speaking very specifically about adultery, about being lured into an illicit sexual affair. But again, these words I think as well apply, broadly speaking, to wickedness in general. Don't let a smooth talker, don't let somebody talk you into a situation where you will end up trapped. And he says the reason for that, he says, because in the end, what you thought was pleasure, what you thought was good, turns out to be bitter as wormwood. And what's curious here, he says her words are like honey. Honey was the sweetest thing known to Israel at the time. Wormwood was the most bitter thing that they had. Again, it was just a nasty event. And so he says what starts out as the sweetest ends up being the most bitter. And again, there's obviously that applies again specifically to adultery, but many things in life we need to remember that what starts out as again what we thought was a good experience can quickly turn bitter. And I remember several years ago, good many years back now, preaching a series of messages out of the book of Proverbs in my church. And we had a man who was in his 90s. And I was, if those of you who know me, I was pretty blunt and plain about the situation, speaking about immorality and sexual sin. And after the service, he came to me, and he had a kind of a concerned look on his face, and I wasn't sure what he was going to say. And he said, if you'd have preached that message when I was a young man, we'd have run you out of town. Okay. And he says, but if you don't preach it today, we ought to run you out of town. We certainly live in a very immoral, we see it on television. Everything is portrayed sexually, and so we need to teach our children and our grandchildren to be careful, to be aware, to not be seduced in this society that we live in, to be very careful about the texting and the email and the internet and all those things. Husbands and wives, adults, need to be careful. I saw something, I don't have it in front of me, a statistic the other day that said how many new pornographic websites come online every day, and it was a staggering number. And so that temptation is high. But again, wickedness in general, we need to remember that many times what starts out looking sweet, what starts out looking pleasurable, ends up being as bitter as wormwood. You think about that today, and be careful where we go and who we associate with. All right, have a good day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning.